when you talk to these philosophers, professors, and cardiologists, psychiatrists, um, when you approach them for the film, is the intent on your behalf to try to just bring this down to more kind of like an academic level? Because where on one end a testimonial from a person has an emotional, personal perspective, I think what is really
Yeah.
impressive about the documentary is that we're going to go underneath the layers of the emotional and kind of go into the, I always have a saying a saying that I have for myself where I call science understanding the mechanics of God's creation. That's kind of like my philosophy on that. And to me, that's what it seems like you're doing here. You're trying to get into the mechanics of this kind of what is happening here. Is that the intent on your behalf?
Yeah, it's kind of like we took the approach of from a skeptical perspective. Even not everyone that was involved in the production of the film really believed in these stories. I was years into this kind of research as the director, and so I definitely was convinced along the way that that there is something after. But trying my best to remain objective and all that. But we did have people that were included, on the producer side that were a lot more skeptical, and that really helped because I think entering this project with that tension of halfway between believing and totally disbelieving, you kind of so basically we took the approach of we're trying to speak to the heart and to the mind. So I think these stories of the near-death experiences, the people who actually clinically died, a lot of their accounts are going to speak to the heart because it's an emotional roller coaster and their life had been transformed. um, but the clinical kind of scientific studies of it, there's a lot of evidence to kind of back up these cases, and that was kind of to speak to the mind. And I should say that it's not every single person that's involved in the film even believes in life after death. We have Dr. Zamar, who had this incredible study that broke in 2022, which we're very fortunate to get him involved in the project. It made headlines all around the world, where he has the first ever recording of a dying human brain, which we all thought this must have happened before.
Mm.
And actually, to Dr. Zamar's surprise, even when they submitted the papers, they assumed that there had been a few counts like this before, and it turns out under acute clinical environments, this is the first one that's ever been done, where it's extreme detail. They actually had the scalp removed, and these probes were actually in the brain because they're basically trying to stop this patient from seizuring, which they did manage. But unfortunately, the patient, his heart had stopped, and there was a no resuscitation order from the family, so they could intervene. And so, minutes after, they realized, oh my goodness, like we have a recording of the first, dying brain. And it was really interesting because, although it's just one case, and it's of a seizuring patient who's, has drugs and things like that in his system. So it's not the perfect case. It's still very interesting because we kind of explore both the spirituality side to it, obviously, with these experiences, but then also like at what point do we die? Like, what is that threshold of death? And sort of the film kind of like investigates that, I would say, on a deep level, and even asks that question: what is the point of death? And is there sort of this line? And the line seems to be both on the spiritual level as well as the physical material level, because it seems that the brain does continue on for a small period of time. We don't know how long yet, because there's not enough data out there. But then also in the spiritual side, many of the people who have these near-death experiences talk about there's this barrier that they come in contact with, and they know that if they cross that barrier, just instinctively, that they cannot return to their body. It's just this is a point of no return. And Dr. Sabin says in the film, a line something like, "How do we know? How would you know if that's truly a line that maybe is final death?"
Mm.
And we can't know because we can't interview anyone who has gone over that barrier because they just haven't come back.
Thank you for watching the Matt's Movie Reviews channel. Please subscribe for more reviews, podcast interviews, and exclusive content.